Hey you guys, it's your girl Keeping It Pushing, coming to you again with a video. Okay. I wanted to come to you guys today and let's just have a little brief conversation about something that I don't tell people about much, but it is what it is. It's true. It's what happened to me, and it is. If you one of them people who don't believe that God is real, you need to stay tuned for this, because this is when I knew that God was who God was. And even in me knowing who God was, I went through my life holding on to him, walking away, holding on to him, walking away. But we'll get into all that as we progress on with the story. Okay, I had to be every bit of like, I want to say about 15, 16 around this time. And by this time I had already been introduced to church. Okay, my mom didn't take us to church. Okay, my mother would send us to church with other people. Okay, and I always wanted to be a person that grew up in church, because I've always felt like people who went to church and knew God, their lives was always good. Which I've been through this world my years. I ain't telling my age, even though my birthday is next week. It's Tuesday of next week, the 20th. Ah, ha, ha. So y'all make sure y'all put some happy birthdays down, because I probably end up, well, I'll be at work that day, but it still doesn't matter. Just put some hearts and some happy birthdays down. I've always been drawn to the church. Like, I look at churches. Some churches scare me, some don't, because of the way they're made. I'm kind of weird. It's one of the weird things. Don't even try to understand it, because I fully don't understand it. But anyway, I had to be about 15 to 16 at this time. And I was talking to this guy, and I ain't gonna lie, I ain't gonna say that I was fast, because I hadn't slept with anybody. I've only had sex like one time. So it wasn't like I was out there sleeping with nobody or nothing like that. But it was this guy that I used to like, and I can cornrow hair, I can plait, I can do all that. My brother's oldest daughter's mother, she used to do hair, so I learned how to braid at a very, very early age. Like, I was plaits and all that by 5, 6, 7 years old. I knew how to do all that. So that was just something that I could do. And I thought he was real cute. Now I'm telling my age a little bit in this story. But he had a black Maxim station wagon, okay? And if anybody knows, back in that time, them station wagons was the, like, yeah, that was with the hustlers or whatever was pushing, that was the car at that time. Maximus was like it was the car. Like, all the dudes had them if you had a little coin. And I used to like him. I used to think he was so cute. He had his own apartment, and knowing daggone well I had no business dealing with a dude that had his own apartment. But I mean, it was what it was. So he used to ask me to braid his hair, and he used to pay me to braid his hair. So this particular day, I called him, I think I called him, to be honest with you. And I was like, hey, what you doing? No, I had talked to him a couple of days prior. That's what it was. I talked to him a couple of days prior, and, we were supposed to have hooked up. He was like, well, can you do my hair? Whatever. I got you. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. I was like, yeah, all right, what you want? So he was like, I just want, he said, either some plaits or some cornrows, whichever one you want to do. I don't care, as long as, you do my hair. I was like, are you going to wash your hair before I get there? Because I don't got time for all that. Like, if we going to hang out, I don't want to be doing your hair all day and all night. So he was like, I'll wash it, whatever. Boom. So the day comes, I call him. I had got off of work. I had called him, and I was like, hey, are you home? Da, 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 da. So he was like, yeah, I'm home. I'll come get you. I was like, well, nah, because it was in the summertime. So I was like, nah, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? I'll come to your house, because he only lived, like, really, to be honest, like, it's like 2.5 blocks away. It was like I walked to the end of the street, end of my block, make a right, walk up that hill halfway in the middle of the block, make another left because it was a street. And it's like his building was right there. So it was nothing for me back then. And I ain't gonna lie, I was smoking my little cigarettes. Even back then, I sneaked my mother little cigarettes or whatever. And you know what I'm saying? I was like, all right, you know, this is my time to take my little walk. And I smoke my little cigarette. I'm gonna go do his hair. So I get there. We hang out. I do his hair. He ended up cooking for me. That was my first experience of a man actually taking the time to like cook for me. You know what I'm saying? To embrace some of the things that I will come to love and enjoy, you know, as a woman or whatever. So, as the night winds down or whatever the case may be, you know, he's like, well, I'm about to take you home. Da, 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 da. I was like, well, no, I can walk, you know, ain't no issue. I live like a block and a half away. And he was like, nah, I'm going to take you home. Like he kept enforcing to take me home. But I kept on insisting for him not to take me home. One, because I didn't want my mother to see me get out of a guy's car. My mother would have had a whole fit, would have contacted my father. My father would have came over, had a whole fit. My father is military. So with that being said, I'm one of them girls that was like heavily watched, you know what I'm saying? But given the room to be herself, but still heavily watched. I was, you know, monitored about the clothes that I wore, the things that I did, all of that. Like those are things that was heavily monitored in my household. Like we weren't allowed to speak slang. Like my children that are adults, like if they come in my house and they speak slang, like I literally go off because they weren't raised with slang. Like you gonna speak English to me, okay? All that, whatever you do, when you outside, you can talk that mess to your friends, but you don't bring that home to me because we speak English in this house. And that's how I was raised. So, I mean, of course, you raised that way, that's what you're gonna pass down. Anywho, getting back to the story. I'm walking, okay? And this was the day that I knew that one, God was real and guardian angels are real. Okay. So after the, you know, we going back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. Like I said before, I told you I didn't want to pull up, you know, getting out of this man's car because my mother was one of them mothers. I had to be in the house by a certain time. Around that time, she act like she wasn't in that window. Baby, Ellen was in that window, and dealing with Ellen and not Eleanor, those are two different personalities. And if you had a mother like I had, an old school country working class mom and a military dad, you already know how that household was really ran. And I had a country mom, so she didn't play that. So she'll look out the window around the time that I'm supposed to be walking my behind in that door. She in that window and she paying attention. And trust me, if I would have got out of the car, it'd have been the 30,000 degree, would have went down in that house. I'd have been grounded. I'd have been all types of stuff. And I like my freedom, and I like being able to go to work and hang out with my friends and drink and smoke my little cigarettes or whatever. Anyway, I digress. So again, I press the issue. I was like, no, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to be grown at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Trying to show him like I ain't got no rules. Like my mother don't control what I do. No, dang on well, I know Ellen controlled what the heck I did and what I was doing in her house. So I'm like, okay. He's like, well, call me as soon as you get in the house. I was like, okay, I'll dang on. Trying to these sweatpants, it just felt like it was extra tight. So I'm like, all right, I'll call you when I get in the house. He was like, Keisha, don't forget, call me when you get in the house, because if you don't, then I'm gonna pull up on you. So of course I don't want that. So okay, boom, I'm walking and I get on a street that goes to my apartment. Now, for the sake of the video, because of course I'm not going to say where I live, but let's just say the distance in between both of my hands is the street that I'm walking down. Now I'm coming down here, okay? Now at the end of my hand, my apartment building will be to the right, okay? So it's like one building, two building, the third building, that's my building. Now behind my building is a little baby alley, and then it's houses. I said apartments, houses, and it's houses across the street. but you got apartments and houses mixed on the same street. Okay. So as I'm walking down, I'm the only one on the street. I'm the only one walking. There's nobody. Ain't nobody sitting on their porches. Ain't nobody outside smoking no cigarettes. Ain't nobody smoking no tree. No, it's nobody outside. And it's like and it's weird too for the city that I'm in, to be honest with you. It normally is people out there. Because it was like about, I want to say 11:30ish around that time. And my curfew was 12 o'clock. I had to be in the house 12 o'clock. It was the weekend. So I had to be in the house by 12 o'clock. So I knew the time span to make it home. So I left early enough to give me time enough that I could sit out on the front, you know what I'm saying, smoke a little cigarettes or whatever. My girl had gave me some drink, so I had some drink, but it didn't even matter because I ain't gonna lie, I used to go to the liquor store all the time and I was on bottles and James Pina Colada. Okay, I used to drink that like it was crazy, but they never called me in the liquor store, so it was fine. So I'll always get my own drink, but she had went to the liquor store earlier that day and she had brought it to me and I left it in the house. So I was like, oh, okay, I got time. I can sit outside on the porch on the phone, because back then, we had the cordless phone, so I can go sit outside on the front, drink my little, wine coolers or whatever, and talk to Mike. And if he ever comes across this video, yeah, this is what happened when I left your house. Even though we had the conversation afterwards later on that night, and that's the reason why from that point on, I didn't care if I got in trouble or not. You was taking me home. All right, cool. I'm walking down the street, mind you. Now, remember, my street is just like this. It's just a long street. It's coming. I don't bent the corner. I'm at the top of the hill. I'm walking. And as I'm walking, I'm looking in front of me, beside me, behind me. I'm always vigilant of my surroundings when I'm walking. Back then, we ain't had the ear duds and all that. You either had the Walkman head things on your ear or whatever the case may be, but we ain't even had cell phones. Cell phones wasn't even, it was a thing, but people were still using two-ways and pages at the time too. So I hadn't even got my first cell phone yet, because I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 18. But anyway, that's another story for another time. So I'm walking down the street and I'm getting closer to the alley that's behind my house. So it's like the alley. I can go down the alley, go through the gate, go through my back door in my building, and I can walk up the steps, and I'm at home. I lived on the second floor, so it was fine. But I'm not walking in no alley. Even though it's lit, it's dark, and I'm a female. My mama ain't raised no fool. Well, I was a fool by denying that right. But in the midst of that, was my encounter to know that God is real and angels are real and your guardian angels are real. I'm walking, and as I'm approaching the alley, I'm on the opposite side of the street. I'm not even on the same side of the street as my building. I'm across from it, but I'm walking up to the point where I can clearly see the alley. And it's enough space that even though I'm walking, I can clearly see there's nobody in the alley. Okay? As I'm walking, about to walk, getting closer to walk to the corner so I can cross within the crosswalk, because of course it's ongoing traffic. But it's nobody coming down the street. Remember this. This is key. Always remember, when people telling you a story, remember what they are saying to you. There was nobody outside. There was no cars coming up or down the street. There was no cars going up and down the street on the corner in which I turned to even get on the street by my house. There was no traffic coming up the street. And it's a high school right there that I was attending. So it wasn't, was I 17 at that time? No, I was 16. So it was like 2 blocks, my block, 2 more blocks up was my high school. But anywho, as I'm walking, this guy appears out of nowhere, out the alley. Now he has a Domino's box. Now he got the Domino's box in his hand. So as I see it, I'm not thinking nothing of it. I'm like, oh, he came from down the shopping center, he got him a Domino's pizza. But then I thought about it. I was like, the Domino's is on the avenue. So I know he ain't come from that. Why is he coming? But again, I digress. He might have wanted to get him some tree or something, because it's a famous street in my state in my city, because my city is not even a state. My city where, it was known. You get all the tree or whatever from. So I'm proceeding to get ready to crawl to walk my way, and I'm slowing down because I'm seeing the guy. So my walk didn't speed up, it actually slowed down. So as I'm about to walk, I don't know for the life of me how the heck he got across that street that fast, but he was across the street. Now when he came across the street, he had a gun. Oh, I'm sorry, because we can't use that word, but he had a pew pew under the Domino's box. So he was like walking the alley. And at that point, I was scared shitless. I was like, all them years my mother and father has taught me, you walk with this, you walk with this. Like one of my father's biggest thing was, we don't wear heels nowhere. We wear tennis shoes. So just in case you gotta run, you can run. You don't need to be walking up and down the street with no damn flip-flops on that you can trip up and fall. No, you need to keep sneakers on or a shoe or boot or something that lace so you can move if you gotta move. But this man has a gun. So my thought is, okay, you got to comply, because if you don't comply, this man is going to shoot you dead right here on the street. And I'm saying to myself, at 16, at the mind of a 16-year-old, even though I grew up underneath the old thumb, I can walk 10 city blocks. I don't travel from one state to another state 9, 10 years old. It was normal. Get on the metro, go wherever I got to go. There was never no issue. I was brought up, I had a key around my daggone neck. I knew how to go in the house and cook a meal or whatever the case may be, because that was the time that I grew up in. So at this point, I'm like, oh my God, like it's so many things running through my head. So mind you, when I looked out in the street, there is no, and when I mean there is no cars coming. There is nothing. It's just me and this dude on the street. It is nobody outside. If I yell, if I scream, by the time somebody done got me, he would have probably done drug me in the alley or whatever. No car, no nothing. So now he was like, I'm not playing, walk in the alley. So as I proceed to step off the curb, I promise you, out of nowhere, I promise you, this truck was like right soon as I stepped off the curb to walk in the street, this truck came out of nowhere. It was like it appeared out of nowhere. I don't know if I was in panic mode. I didn't hear it. I didn't see it. But I know when I looked up that street, I looked up, front was back was, the only thing I didn't do was look behind me. It was no car on that street. No car, no truck, no nothing. So as I proceeded to step out in the street, the truck was there, and I ran and hit the front of the truck. It was like, he has a pew-pew. He got a pew-pew. And I jotted off running across the street. So the guy with the Domino's box took off running down the street. The dude that was in the car jumped out of the car. He was like, you all right? Crazy is, it was like he purposely just stopped. He had enough time. Mind you, I'm just stepping off the curb in front of the car. It was none of that. It was none of that. It was like the truck appeared and it was there, and he knew to be there because that was what it was. Honey, that man got back in that truck. Mind you, I'm beelining across the street at this point. Now I'm running in my building. I'm nervous. I'm fumbling with my keys. I'm getting in the house. I'm yelling for my mom. I'm telling my mom what's going on. Da 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 da. And my mother called the cops. Everybody come. They go look through the neighborhood. Boy is gone. Truck is gone. The man ain't come back. No nothing. So after the police, took my little, my statement, got my mother's statement, they was like, look, you 16 years old. You don't need to be walking the streets. And I was like, he was like, you seem like a good kid, as your mother say, you in school, you got good grades, you know what I'm saying? This is something that you don't need to be doing. You don't need to be walking the street. You need to be in the house at a reasonable hour. I understand what your curfew is, but if you did someone's head, you should have asked them to walk you home. You know what I'm saying? Or if they offered you the ride home, you should have taken the ride home. Now, what saved me in that situation to the point that my mother didn't jump on me is because I was like, no, I was doing a friend of mine's hair. He paid me $75 to do his hair, even though he gave me $250 because that was my dude. You feel me? Like that was my nigga. Okay. And I wasn't sleeping with him because I was raised that I don't have to sleep with somebody to get anything. So I don't understand where these girls come from. You got to scream and all that to get what you want because you don't. You know what I'm saying? You should just be yourself. And if he messes with you like that, he gonna give you whatever you want. And I didn't ask for it, but that's what he gave me. Anywho, but he was always like that when it came to me. He always gave me two or better. Anywho, I'm telling you this story is because later on, reflecting back on it, God had a calling on my life that I didn't even know. There was nobody on the street, you guys, and this car appeared out of nowhere. Nowhere. That was my guardian angel protecting me, because that man went zooming down the street, and as the car, of course, is faster than any guy, and it was like he disappeared. I never heard no tires. I ain't heard no yelling. I ain't heard no screaming. Like, no, I ain't hear none of that. But then again, I did run to my building, so I wouldn't have been able to hear anything anyway. But you would have been able to hear or whatever. And when the police came, he would have had on boy and said, he would have called the police himself. And he was like, nobody reported anything. So I say this to say this. God is real. And y'all got to understand that we're here by God's grace and mercy. And that I had a calling on my life even at that young age and didn't even realize the magnitude of what was going on around me. I didn't have an understanding. I did not know, how much God loved me, to the point that it was years later reflecting back on that situation, because I barely tell it, and I don't know why, because that is a true example that God exists and that God, your protection, God sends people here. He sends your guardian angel, because I wouldn't have been here today to have the kids that I have, the grandbabies. I wouldn't have met my husband, God rest his soul. I wouldn't have met none of my boyfriends that I did have, exes or whatever. I would have never met the people that I've been blessed to be encountered. I wouldn't have learned none of the lessons that I've learned to this very second. To this very second, I know that God is real. And if that, mind you, I'm 16 at the time. It didn't register to me until I was in my mid-20s. I had to be about 27, 28. That's another story. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to upload that one next after this one. But I'm telling this video for you guys. God is real. And y'all, look at the things that are going on around us. Look at the times that we in. If we got enough time to post a video, we got time to read the Bible. If we got time to sit and drink and smoke with everybody else, we got time to listen to a sermon. We got time to make it to church. We got time to go to the club. We got time to go to Aruba and the Dominican Republic and all of these other places. But we never find time in our day to give to God. And it's like this present situation that I'm in right now, I am so thankful, because I know it was nothing but God. Because I know how God works and shows up for me. I am very stubborn. I'm loyal. I stick into something even when it's not even serving me. I still stick in it. And God is at this point, when it comes to me, he's like, no, I want to bless you. I want to give you, I literally want to give you the desires of your heart. I'm never deserving of any blessing that I've received. I don't feel that I'm blessed, to be worthy to get the blessings that I've been receiving. But I'm receiving them because my heart is, my whole life, I have felt unwanted, not needed, not appreciated, not loved, no nothing. And God has shown me countless times, time after time after time after time, that